Just before Christmas, while most people were worrying about gifts and family drama, 249 elected officials across the U.S. received a very different kind of holiday letter. These weren't from angry constituents or pranksters. They came from America First Legal, or AFL, led by Stephen Miller, Trump's hardline policy architect. The letters, sent December 23, warned officials in sanctuary jurisdictions they could face felony charges and prison for allegedly impeding federal immigration enforcement. It was a calculated move, not a random stunt. AFL was firing the first shot in a new legal war, signaling that resistance to the incoming administration could mean personal legal jeopardy. The message, fall in line or risk jail. This wasn't just about policy, it was about intimidation. The timing, right before the holidays, was designed to maximize stress and fear, turning a political disagreement into a personal threat. For California officials like Attorney General Rob Bonta and LA Mayor Karen Bass, this was more than a letter. It was a declaration of war on their policies and on them personally. And so, the stage was set for a monumental clash at the dawn of a new administration. Why the legal threats? They're the opening act for Trump's promised mass deportation campaign, the largest in U.S. history. The plan? Declare a national emergency. Use the military to round up and deport millions, and force local officials to comply, or face prosecution. Tom Homan, Trump's incoming border czar, made it clear. Obstructing federal immigration law is a felony. This is a radical escalation, requiring detention camps, a militarized presence, and the forced cooperation of local law enforcement. The AFL's letters are the legal crowbar to pry open that compliance. Betting fear will break resistance. Using the military for domestic law enforcement crosses a line democracies rarely approach, but the administration is framing it as a national emergency to justify the move. The paperwork is in place. The boots may soon follow. California officials didn't flinch. Instead, they called out the AFL letter for what it was, a scare tactic. Attorney General Rob Bonta reaffirmed the legality of California's sanctuary law, which had already survived a Trump-era legal challenge. LA Mayor Karen Bass's office declared AFL wrong on both public safety and the law, vowing to protect residents. Los Angeles even fast-tracked a new sanctuary ordinance, preparing for the coming storm. Governor Gavin Newsom called a special session, requesting $25 million to fund legal battles against the Trump administration. California was lawyering up, making clear it would defend its policies and officials with real resources. The state's leaders saw this as more than a legal fight. It was a political and ideological stand. They bet their voters would reward them for defending California's values. The battle lines were drawn, and California was ready for the fight. On the ground, things were messier. In San Diego, a surge in border crossings made the county a flashpoint. The Board of Supervisors passed a policy barring local law enforcement from sharing information with ICE without a warrant, a direct challenge to federal pressure. But Sheriff Kelly Martinez refused to enforce it, siding with ICE and defying the board. This exposed deep divisions, pitting local lawmakers against law enforcement under the shadow of federal threats. The pressure became personal. Board Chair Nora Vargas, who received an AFL threat letter, stepped down, citing security concerns for her family. The chilling effect was real. Legal threats turned into real-world fear, forcing officials out. San Diego became a microcosm of the chaos the administration's strategy was designed to create. Divide, intimidate, and undermine resistance from within. While the state could fund legal defenses, it couldn't stop local officials from breaking ranks or protect them from personal threats. The AFL's letters weren't just about scaring, they were about dividing and conquering. At the heart of this conflict is a single federal statute, the law against harboring undocumented immigrants. AFL claims sanctuary policies violate this law, but legal experts disagree. Not sharing information with ICE isn't harboring. It's just not doing the federal government's job for them. Courts have already upheld California's sanctuary law, and the Supreme Court let that decision stand. So why the threats? Because the goal isn't to win in court, it's to intimidate, divide, and force compliance through fear of expensive, draining legal battles. Most local officials don't have the resources of a state behind them, and the threat of felony charges is terrifying, even if unlikely to stick. It's a strategy of legal attrition. Win by default when opponents are too scared or broke to fight. The legal ground is shaky, but the psychological impact is real. This is less about law and more about power. This showdown isn't new. It's the latest round in America's long fight over states' rights. Ironically, progressive states like California are now using the anti-commandeering doctrine, a conservative legal principle, to resist federal overreach. The Supreme Court has repeatedly ruled that the federal government can't force state officials to enforce federal law. California argues immigration enforcement is a federal job. States can't be compelled to help, especially when their own laws forbid it. This legal shield is rooted in the 10th Amendment, a twist of history that's hard to miss. The conflict isn't just about Trump or immigration, it's about unresolved tensions in American federalism. The Trump administration is pushing for near-absolute federal supremacy, while California champions state autonomy. The outcome could redefine the balance of power between Washington and the states for decades. To understand the stakes, look to Brazil, where Trump ally Jair Bolsonaro faces trial for an alleged coup plot. Bolsonaro, like Trump, attacked democratic institutions and refused to concede defeat, leading to a violent insurrection. Now, Trump is using U.S. power to protect Bolsonaro, calling the case a witch hunt, threatening tariffs, and even sanctioning the Brazilian Supreme Court justice overseeing the trial. This is the America First doctrine exported, using state power to shield allies and punish enemies, at home and abroad. The fight against California's sanctuary laws, and the fight to save Bolsonaro spring from the same playbook: power above law, loyalty above democracy. Legal systems are seen as tools to be bent, not respected. The parallels are chilling, and they show the global reach of this authoritarian mindset. What happens in California isn't just local. It's part of a worldwide struggle over democracy and the rule of law. Strip away the legal jargon, and this is a battle for the soul of American democracy. Threats of prosecution, mass deportation plans, and interference in foreign courts are all symptoms of a movement that sees the rule of law as optional. The core question: will the U.S. remain a nation of laws, or become a nation ruled by executive whim? Using legal threats to silence political opponents is the tactic of authoritarians, not Democrats. California's resistance is a test. Can a state serve as a firewall against federal overreach? If intimidation works, state autonomy becomes meaningless, and federal power knows no bounds. The outcome will define the limits of power, the rule of law, and the future of the American experiment. And that fight is happening right now.